Good afternoon, everybody. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. There's so much news I can't fit it all in my headline. I can only fit two things in the headline. So we're going to be talking about at least three things. We have President Trump. Well, earlier today he said he ordered nuclear submarines to be repositioned in responses to comments from a Russian politician. And just in the last hour or so, President Trump said he's firing the Commissioner of Labor Statistics. This comes hours after comes out hours after labor statistics came out, in which the recent months of the recent May and June job numbers were revised down earlier today, and also the latest jobs report was less than it was predicted to be. And President Trump came out and said he's firing the head of labor statistics, the Commissioner of Labor Statistics, and Ghislaine Maxwell, who was convicted of sex trafficking crimes, convicted of helping Jeffrey Epstein, and convicted of sex trafficking related crimes. And she's spending 20 years in prison. She was transferred to a minimum security prison camp in Texas. And I don't believe there's been an official explanation of why this is yet. This comes after, was it last week when she talked with the Department of Justice, when she talked with the Deputy Attorney General? She had 2 days of talks, and now she got transferred to a minimum security prison camp. So all of this stuff is going on right now. I can't even fit it all in my headline. It's all here, but I can't fit it all in here. So we're going to bring you the latest updates on all this stuff. By the way, I don't want to start with this, but my quick take on the nuclear thing, I don't think this means we're close to nuclear war. And this isn't just me, but I mean, this seems more like kind of a rhetorical thing, kind of like a social media back and forth. Then I wouldn't be sitting there thinking that there's now a significantly bigger risk of nuclear war today because of this. I just want people to be careful with this news. I see some of what I feel is overreactions on social media to this. So I just want people to not be overly alarmed based on what the news actually is here, okay? But we'll talk about that in depth. I just want to, make sure that people know where we're coming from here on this broadcast. Okay. So let me show you. Let's start with the Let's start with the most recent thing that happened with the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Commissioner of Labor Statistics, because this is the most recent one. And then we'll kind of just go one by one and give you updates. I'm guessing there might be updates on the different ones. By the way, thank you to our moderators who are here. We have Ruth Krafasi is moderating. Thanks, Ruth. Beth Mythical is moderating. Janet B. Thank you so much. And they are all moderating on YouTube. We have over on Twitch moderating Idaho Star, Matthew Kohai 3, and Surly Dev. Thank you. Linda Bell, Larry, and Misha moderate for us on X. Over on Facebook, thanks to our moderators over there. Kay Lowry Body, thank you. Margaret Riley, thank you. Kristen McConnell, thanks Kristen McConnell Gates for subscribing over there. And thanks Susan Priest Buchner for subscribing. And thanks Susan Priest Buchner for the Facebook stars. Shout out, by the way, happy 70th birthday to our longtime viewer and supporter, Storm and Norman. Thank you, Storm and Norman in Connecticut. Happy 70th birthday. Thanks also to Louis R. Thanks, Louis R., for your support. I really appreciate that. Thanks also, Allie C. and Lil Rena. All right, let's start with the most recent thing that happened, with the head of labor statistics being fired. All right, so let me pull this up here so I can show you this. Right here. There it is. There it is. There's a lot going on right now. A lot we need to cover. Why is this doing this? Oh, I see. Hang on. Here's a headline, by the way. Trump demands official overseeing jobs data be fired after dismal employment report. AP says dismal. I mean, I don't know. I'll leave it to you whether to say dismal employment report. But what happened today is the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, President Trump today said he is ordering that she be fired. And what happened is earlier today, a new jobs report came out where the new numbers, I guess for July, were not as, they were lower than expected. And then also, what happened is the May and June numbers got revised down. It is a common thing in economic statistics to have numbers be revised up or down once more data comes in. So that happens. That happened in the Biden administration too. It's a common thing. But what happened is the May and June jobs numbers were revised down, and the July numbers were not as good as some were hoping, as I guess the consensus estimate was. So President Trump has come out and says he is demanding that, he's ordering that she be fired. So here is what President Trump said. He said, I was just informed that our country's jobs numbers are being produced by a Biden appointee, Dr. Erica McIntarfer, the Commissioner of Labor Statistics. And he says, now he doesn't offer any proof for this. He claims she faked the jobs numbers before the election to try and boost Kamala's chances of victory. Again, no evidence being presented that that's what happened. Yes, the numbers, so numbers do get revised up or down. That happens. But aside from literally the numbers themselves, no evidence, he doesn't present any evidence that she faked the jobs numbers. He says this is the same Bureau of Labor Statistics that overstated the jobs growth in March 2024 by approximately 818,000. I need to check these numbers. I haven't checked the numbers, specifics numbers. And then again, right before the 2024 presidential election in August and September by 112,000. These were records. No one can be that wrong. We need accurate jobs numbers. I have directed my team to fire this Biden political appointee immediately. So I'm equating with that as he's firing her. My headline said he fires her. So I'm reading that as he fires her. Now, I guess maybe it could come out that they don't carry out his orders or something, or he's not allowed to do it, but I read that as he fired her. He says, I have directed my team to fire this Biden political appointee immediately. She will be replaced with someone much more competent and qualified. Important numbers like this must be fair and accurate. They can't be manipulated for political purposes. Now, here's where he talks about the report that came out today. McIntyre said there were only 73,000 jobs added, a shock. And I believe that's for July. But more importantly, that a major mistake was made by them, 258,000 jobs downward in the prior 2 months. Similar things happened in the first part of the year, always to the negative. The economy is booming under Trump, despite a Fed that also plays games, this time with interest rates, where they lowered them twice and substantially just before the presidential election, I assume in the hopes of getting Kamala elected. How did that work out? Jerome Too Late Powell, head of the Fed, should be put out to pasture, which I think means like killing an animal. Doesn't it normally be that? Isn't that what that normally means? Putting out to pasture? But I'm guessing he means fired or stop. Well, I mean, or he should stop being the head of the Fed. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Oh, well, just to be clear, for example, one dictionary looked up, it has two meanings. It has two meanings. I just looked up one dictionary, one dictionary I looked up says that it can be to force someone to leave a job. That's number 2 because of old age. But the number 1 definition is to bring animals. Oh, no. It's just to bring animals out. It's not to kill them. I'm wrong. It's to bring them out to graze when they're too old. Well, I'm wrong about that. Okay. So I guess I was wrong about the animal meaning. I guess my whole life I've misunderstood the phrase "put out to pasture." Don't some people ever say that? Let's see here. Let me look this up. I guess it doesn't mean. Does anyone ever use it that way? Anyways. So the two definitions I'm seeing are forcing someone to retire, or an animal that you stop from working because it's too old to work. Anyways, so there you go. I guess a few people in the chat were interpreting it as I interpreted. But strictly speaking, I just told you, I looked it up on several sites and they said the two definitions are having somebody, forcing somebody to retire, a person, or like taking an animal that's too old to work and having it just go in the pasture and graze. Okay, so there you go. Anyways, but that aside, so sorry for my mistake on that. That aside, let me just show you, just to give you a little more background here on this. Let me show you this. Trump demands official overseeing jobs data be fired after dismal employment report. This is from AP. President Trump on Friday called for the firing of the head of the agency. Well, he said he'd ordered it. He didn't just say she should be fired. He said he is directing that it be done. Of the head of the agency that produces the monthly jobs report, after a report showed hiring slowed in July and was much weaker in May and June than previously reported. Trump said that, he said he had directed that she be fired. Erica McIntyre, the director of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Yes, he said, I have directed my team to fire this Biden political appointee immediately, he said. Friday's jobs report showed that just 73,000 jobs were added last month and that 258,000 fewer jobs were created in May and June than previously reported. McIntyre was nominated by Biden in 2023 and became the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics in January 2024. Commissioners typically serve 4-year terms, but they are political appointees and can be fired, says AP. The commissioner is the only political appointee of the agency, which has hundreds of career civil servants. President Trump focused much of his anger on the revisions the agency made to previous hiring data. Job gains in May were revised down to just 19,000 from 125,000, and in June they were cut to 14,000 from 147,000. The unemployment rate ticked up to a still low 4.2 from 4.1. The monthly employment report, says AP, is one of the most closely watched pieces of government economic data and can cause sharp swings in financial markets. The disappointing figures sent U.S. market indexes about 1.5% lower today. While the jobs numbers are often the subject of political spin, economists and Wall Street investors with millions of dollars at stake have always accepted U.S. government economic data as free from political manipulation. So, and just to update you on the, we might have some public comments from Trump. Are we going to get comments from him when he's leaving? I am supposed to get video of Trump departing the White House going to Bedminster. So maybe he'll have some comments about all these stories. I don't know if he's going to answer questions. But if he does, I'm supposed to get some video after the fact. So I'll show you that if I had it, if I have it. And I'm going to take some comments from you guys now. All right, so what do you guys think? And I'm going to, this is getting a lot of coverage. Oh, I was going to tell you what the current stocks numbers are. Oh, look, I can show you. I can show you the Dow Jones. Let's take a live look at the Dow Jones today. Dow Jones Industrial Average, guys. There it is. Oops, I got to make this a little smaller. That's too big. Can't see it. There is the current Dow Jones average 20 minutes before closing time. And the NASDAQ today is down 2.25% roughly, and S&P 500 down about 1.67%. Okay. So let me take some of your guys' comments on this President Trump ordering the firing of the head of labor statistics. Oh, I'd like to show you a couple quick comments first, though. Let me show you a couple quick comments first. Just a couple quick comments. Then I'll take some comments from you. Okay, so a Democratic Senator, Mark Warner, his comment is, Mark Warner posted and said, he's a Democratic senator, he said Trump is trying to send the jobs data into the same dark vault where he's hiding the Epstein report, because if the facts don't serve him, he does everything he can to bury them. Meanwhile, the current Secretary of Labor posted about this, and she said, Lori Chavez DeReamer, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing her last name DeReamer right. Chavez DeReamer. She said, I agree wholeheartedly with the president that our jobs numbers must be fair, accurate, and never manipulated for political purposes. A recent string of major revisions have come to light and raise concerns about decisions being made by the Biden-appointed labor commissioner. Now, to be clear, there has been no evidence presented other than the numbers themselves that these numbers were somehow manipulated for political purposes. The Secretary of Labor said, I support the president's decision to replace Biden's commissioner and ensure the American people can trust the important and influential data coming from Bureau of Labor Statistics. During the search for a replacement, Deputy Commissioner William Wietrowski will serve as acting commissioner. She says, thanks to President Trump, our economy is booming, and with the help of fair trade deals and the One Big Beautiful Bill, American workers will prosper. Okay. Let me take some comments from you guys. Oh, and some people mentioned a shooting in Montana. I had posted about that on my X account already a little while ago. I will check on that and let you know what I hear about that. If you give me a second here. I'll give you an update about that. Some people asked about that. Yeah, multiple people shot at a business in Anaconda, Montana. And just to give you another report on that. NBC Montana said the shooter reportedly fled the Owl Bar and is currently being pursued. And if I can pull this up here. Here. And then AZ Intel, who I follow, mentioned the Montana Standard, which is a news outlet in Butte, Montana, which is near where this happened. And let's see, what did they post? I don't even know if I can read their thing. I think they're paywalled there. I think they're paywalled. So they are on X. And the governor posted about it as well of Montana. He said, I'm closely monitoring Governor Greg Gianforte, if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm closely monitoring the situation involving an active shooter in Anaconda, Montana. Please join Susan and me in praying for the victims, their loved ones, and the brave law enforcement officers responding to this tragedy. So I will give you updates about that when I get it. Okay? And also the Granite County Sheriff's Office said they were pursuing a truck, police, but it turned out to be not the suspect. They said there's no threat right now to the citizens of Granite County at this time. KXLF says a person at a nearby bar told MTN News he saw the shooter walking around with a rifle. All right, so we'll keep an eye on that. All right, I got to go back. We're talking about a bunch of different stories, but the first story we're talking about is President Trump has ordered that the head of labor statistics, the commissioner of labor statistics, be fired hours after, I believe it's the Bureau of Labor Statistics, came out with the new jobs report in which the number of new jobs in the latest month was less than anticipated, and also the numbers from May and June were revised down. The jobs numbers from May and June were revised down. It is common for economic numbers like this to change when data comes in future months. So the fact that they were revised down in and of itself is not out of the ordinary. President Trump suggested in this post, I would say this, he doesn't clearly say that the recent jobs numbers are inaccurate, the revisions. But you could read him as implying that. So it's ambiguous to me. He seems to be maybe suggesting that the new jobs numbers are politically manipulated, but he doesn't explicitly say that. So I leave it to you to interpret it. Okay. Ali C says he loves to fire people. Jay Ford thinks Trump is going to speak to reporters. Again, if he does, he's supposed to leave for Bedminster soon. And if he does, I'm supposed to get video of it after it happens. So if he does, I will play you video of that after it happens. Let me just do something here real quick. DM, our viewer, thinks the administration would hide the real numbers if it means Trump looks good. That's what DM thinks. E-Oddity says Doge would get the numbers right. This could be where this could be quite important. Well, one way in which this could be very important is if people around the world, and specifically people involved in economics and finance and such, if they trust the U.S. numbers less going forward. I don't know if they will. Tim M says last 2 months' numbers were fine, though, when he liked them. Jelly Plane says, so did he fire her because of bad numbers or wrong numbers? Brad Shaver thinks the numbers were inflated previously to keep the interest rates up. All right, we're going to be keeping an eye on this story. Let me just show you something else here. Hold on a second here. There's so much going on today. Ooh, there we go. Here's another headline. Trump orders firing of Bureau of Labor Statistics Commissioner after dismal employment report, Reuters. President Trump today ordered that the Commissioner of the Labor Department's Bureau of Labor Statistics, Erica McIntarfer, be fired after data showed weaker than expected employment growth in July and massive downward revisions to the prior 2 months' job counts. McIntarfer was nominated by former President Biden to serve in the role in 2023 and was confirmed by the U.S. Senate the following year. It was not immediately clear whether McIntarfer, who Trump accused of faking the jobs numbers, had been fired. So again, I guess I will apologize if it turns out that somehow she's not fired. Literally, his post says, I have directed my team to fire her immediately. So at a certain point, I think it's okay that the headline says she's fired. But maybe there's some kind of thing where somehow that doesn't end up happening. Or whether it hasn't happened yet. Trump said, we need accurate jobs numbers. I have directed my team to fire this Biden political appointee immediately. She will be replaced with someone much more competent and qualified. Reuters says there is no evidence to back Trump's claims of data manipulation by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the statistical agency that compiles the closely watched employment report as well as consumer and producer price data. The White House did not immediately respond to questions about Trump's post. The order to dismiss McIntarfer comes at a time when the Trump administration's mass layoffs of federal government workers have raised concerns about the quality of U.S. economic data long seen as the gold standard. Okay. So we'll have to see we'll come back to that and talk about this story more. Oh, hold on. Is there a statement from... So, according to Burgess Everett with Semaphore, Lisa Murkowski, who is a Republican senator, but she is seen as like one of the most centrist Republican senators. I'm sorry. Yes, Republican senator, but a centrist. So she's, usually sometimes she's one of the toughest votes for the Republicans to get in an important bill in the Senate, Lisa Murkowski, but she is a Republican. According to Burgess Everett with Semaphore, he quotes her, so I guess he talked to her. Yes, he talked to her. She said about this Trump firing the head of labor statistics, she said, when you don't like the message, fire the messenger. Also, Burgess Everett said he asked her if she thought she could still trust the jobs numbers, and she said, no, that's the problem. And when you fire people, it makes you trust them even less. That's from Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski. If I get more of a comment from the White House on that, I will certainly let you know. I have not seen like an official White House press release on that. Chris Kringle thinks she's a rhino. Oh, new post. New post from Trump about this. We have a new post from President Trump about this story. Breaking news. He is saying the numbers were rigged. Breaking news. Trump says the numbers were rigged today. All right, hold on. I got to get this on the screen. President Trump said the jobs numbers were rigged to make him look bad. Hang on a moment. He came out and said it 11 minutes ago. Here we go. Here it is. Here is his new post. In my opinion, today's jobs numbers were rigged. President Trump is accusing the Bureau of Labor Statistics of rigging today's jobs numbers. He says, in my opinion, they were rigged in order to make the Republicans and me look bad. Just like when they had the 3 great days around the 2024 presidential election, and then those numbers were taken away on November 15, 2024, right after the election, when the jobs numbers were massively revised downward, making a correction of over 818,000 jobs a total scam. Jerome Too Late Powell is no better, but the good news is our country is doing great. So I was telling you that in his post where he, a short while ago, he posted about 2 hours ago saying that he's firing the head of the labor statistics. I was saying, well, it wasn't totally clear in that post. He seemed to be implying in that post that maybe he didn't believe the latest jobs numbers, and that he seemed to be implying that maybe they were made up for political reasons, but it wasn't totally clear. Well, this is totally clear. He literally is saying they were rigged. He does not present any independent evidence they were rigged. But President Trump has just come out and said that the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers that were released this month, the jobs numbers, were rigged to make him look bad. So what about the other numbers from this year? And, I mean, that's obviously a very big charge for him to make. Oh, hold on. I just missed the closing. The stock market's closing. Let's go to the stock market. Look, it's the stock market. It just closed. Hooray! I think it'll go back to the number. Here it is. So Dow was down 1.23% today. And then NASDAQ down around 2.25%. S&P 500 down 1.6%. Wow. President Trump has just come out and said that the not great jobs numbers today were rigged against him intentionally by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And he has fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Wow, guys. So how is the economic community going to look at the new numbers coming out going forward? By the way, let me say a couple thank yous, take a couple more comments here. We got to get to the other stories too. I know there's other stories, but we've had developing news in this story. He just posted this. Look at this. He just posted it. Hey, thanks to Yopley, our member, Laura Nolan. Thank you. Hey, Laura Nolan, happy birthday as well. Lunar Guardian, Brian Jones. Thank you, Brian Jones. Wicked Code, thanks for the gift memberships. Thanks, Martin Gingrich, Jay Ford. Jay, I haven't seen that. I'll have to look into that. Thanks, Jay. Our new members: Aurelio Lopez, Grok AI Bot. Thanks, Trident One. Thanks, Trident One. Thanks, Shaft, for the gift memberships. Dean R says, thanks, Dean, for 18 months of being a member. NY Committee, our member. John Cassidy, thank you. Joe, thank you. No, Joe. Joe, maybe I'll look into that after the broadcast. Thank you, Joe. Fufu Fantasia, Cats Are People too. Anak123, My YouTube, Wendy Knutson, thank you. Weird Beard Game. And also, hang on a moment here. Dark Crypto, thank you. Jay Drabble, thank you on Twitch. Also, thanks to Kristen Gates. Thanks so much, Kristen Gates. Maybe one of our viewers asked about our viewer David Carson said, any new tariff changes today? Not that I've heard. A bunch of the tariffs are now coming into effect on August 7th. So maybe we'll talk about that later once we get through all the other stuff. Okay. This seems like a big story to me, that Trump has fired the head of Bureau of Labor Statistics and has come out publicly and said today's jobs numbers were rigged in order to make Republicans and him look bad. Some of our viewers are saying this is meant as a distraction from the Epstein files. Nick, our viewer, says Epstein, Epstein, Epstein. Well, speaking of Epstein, we're going to talk about Ghislaine Maxwell, too. That's a big story, I think. We're going to talk about that, too. Brad thinks Trump is getting ready for war with Russia? I don't know about that, but we'll talk about that whole story, too. All right, let's go to one of the other stories. We can come back to this story if there's more developments. You can also write to me on X at Lookner. All right, should we talk about, let's talk about the nuclear sub story next, and then we'll talk about Ghislaine Maxwell. Oh, hold on. I want to show you a reaction here. This is from the major union, the AFL-CIO. AFL-CIO, which is... it's made up, it's a trade union center. It's a federation of unions representing 15 million active and retired workers. So major union organization, the AFL-CIO. The AFL-CIO says recklessly firing the Bureau of Labor Statistics Commissioner because you don't like the new jobs numbers won't do a thing to change the clear and simple fact President Trump's policy choices are costing hardworking Americans their jobs. That's from the very large labor union organization AFL-CIO. Okay. All right, we'll come back to this story. There's so much going on. We can't linger on one story. We got to get to the other stories too, and we'll come back. We'll come back, I promise. Jonathan's back thinks this is going to cause a depression. That's what Jonathan's back said. Thanks to Fred Witherow as well. Thanks also to Vindog Radio and Rita. Thanks, Rita. Rita says, data manipulation isn't a new thing. She says, slow the testing down, please. By having more tests, we have more cases, referring to the pandemic. Thank you, Rita. Thanks, Heavenly Intervention, who thinks the stock market's going to crash. Thanks, Olin McKinney, Cookie WM. All right, we got to switch stories. We're switching stories for the moment. Oh, also, by the way, I do want to point out, I just saw this, Daniel Dale pointed out that Daniel Dale is with CNN. I think he's with CNN. Is he with CNN? Yes. But he pointed out that in President Trump's post, President Trump, just a point of fact here, because I was saying I can't confirm all these numbers. So President Trump, in his post when he announced the firing of the Bureau of Labor Statistics head, said that the Bureau of Labor Statistics overstated the jobs growth in March 2024 by approximately 818,000. And then again, right before the election in August and September. And then he said, where is it here? Hold on. What was the exact claim he made? Oh, no, it's the other post. It's the other post we're talking about. This post right here. President Trump said in his second post about this, he said that on November 15th, 2024, right after the election, jobs numbers were massively revised downward, making a correction of over 818,000 jobs. But Daniel Dale pointed out that the downward correction of 818,000 jobs happened around August of 2024, which was several months before the election. He actually posted a link to an article about that. So anyways, it's just a technical point. As I was saying, I haven't fact checked all the numbers in those posts. So if you want to, you can fact check them. But I just wanted to let you know I saw that. We got to jump onto the nuclear sub story. Then we'll come back. We'll come back to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. All right. So nuclear subs. So this story is President Trump has been in this back and forth with this Russian politician, Dmitry Medvedev. Dmitry Medvedev, I think he's a former president of Russia, but in recent years, he's really known, one of the things he's been known for in recent years is posting very provocative, threatening things on social media and making threats. And I would say he's kind of, there's like an opinion of him, a widespread opinion of him as like a loose cannon and kind of making extreme posts all the time on Russia's behalf. So anyways, I'll give you some more background on him. But given that, President Trump has been engaged in this back and forth recently with Dmitry Medvedev. And then today, a pot stir, one of our viewers, T-Money, said pot stir. you can see what happened today is President Trump posted a few hours ago saying, based on the highly provocative statements of the former president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, who is now the deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, I have ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in the appropriate regions just in case these foolish and inflammatory statements are more than just that. Words are very important and can often lead to unintended consequences. I hope this will not be one of those instances. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Well, what Red Wagon says nuclear powered or nuclear armed. It doesn't specifically say in the post. I mean, to me, the implication is carrying nuclear weapons. But let me just, I want to show you something here that I think is important perspective. This is from Tyler Rogaway. And Tyler I follow, and he founded the very good, I think it's great, military news site called The War Zone. And Tyler he knows a lot about military stuff. So what Tyler posted about this after this post is, he said, the U.S. has multiple nuclear ballistic submarines on patrol at all times. Their target options include Russia, of course. There is no need to position them differently or deploy them. So this is an instance of using strategic status quo, nothing has really changed, as strategic warning. So what he's saying is, his understanding is that basically there are always U.S. submarines carrying nuclear weapons ready to strike at Russia at a moment's notice. Like you wouldn't need to put them in a position to do that because that's just always the case. That's what he's saying. Again, just perspective. So he doesn't think this like the actual, he doesn't think that there's like a big significant actual repositioning going on. But it is certainly rhetoric involving, sounds like nuclear weapons carrying submarines, which, you know, does not happen all the time. So I want to show you some of the back and forth between him and Medvedev too. Cynthia Masters doesn't think it's a big deal, our viewer. Carissa thinks it's a threat. Cool TV says, why announce that to the world? It causes more drama. Jesse McAllister says it's called posturing and is a power move. Jen 2 Gone thinks if you were going to do anything strategic, he wouldn't be announcing it. Johnny 58, our viewer, thinks Epstein files made him move these subs. Rita thinks it's a distraction. Carrie Schaefer says Trump is showing strength. What would people expect a president to say? BB thinks Trump should be impeached for threatening nuclear war that kills us all. All right, let me show you this back and forth here between Trump and Medvedev. Dmitry Medvedev, former president of Russia. Again, he often posts provocative, threatening stuff on social media. So let me show you here. Where is this? So he posted on July 15th. well, just to go back here, let me just kind of go back through Trump and then him and just give you a sense of some of this back and forth. Oh, then I have to go back and find, it can be harder to find the Trump posts. Well, for example, President Trump has been saying things like if Russia doesn't do more to stop the conflict, there's going to be new tariffs on Russia, new economic measures taken against Russia. So back on July 15th, Dmitry Medvedev posted, Trump issued a theatrical ultimatum to the Kremlin. The world shuddered, expecting the consequences. Belligerent Europe was disappointed. Russia didn't care. He also posted, just to show you, this is from more recently. Trump's playing the ultimatum game with Russia. 50 days or 10. He should remember two things, he says of Trump. One, Russia isn't Israel or even Iran. Two, each new ultimatum is a threat and a step towards war, not between Russia and Ukraine, but with his own country. Don't go down the Sleepy Joe road. That was 4 days ago. Also, Dmitry Medvedev said, Lindsey Graham posted, to those who in Russia who believe that President Trump is not serious about ending the bloodbath between Russia and Ukraine, you and your customers will soon be sadly mistaken. You will also soon see that Joe Biden is no longer president. Get to the peace table. Dmitry Medvedev, in response to that, said, it's not for you or Trump to dictate when to get to the peace table. Negotiations will end when all the objectives of our military operation have been achieved. Work on America first, Gramps, he said to Lindsey Graham. And then also, where's this other post he made recently? The one about the, with a reference to Russia attacking the U.S. Where is that one? I'll pull that up for you. That was... I'm trying to find, did Medvedev take it down or is it a different account? I can't find that that Medvedev post from recently. Which is the one where he referred to this, to like Russia launching this procedure whereby Russia would launch missiles to the U.S. Did he take that down? Because I'm not seeing it at the moment. Because I want to show it to you. I'll find it. Dead hand switch. Dead hand, yes. Yeah, it was the dead hand post. Has that been deleted? Shinobi thinks Vladimir Putin took it down for him. Okay, I found it. I found the reference to it. So this is from a couple days ago. This article is from yesterday. This is from yesterday. Medvedev reminds Trump of Russia's doomsday nuclear strike capabilities as war of words escalates. This was yesterday. This was before Trump today said that he had positioned 2 nuclear submarines. So this was yesterday. There's Dmitry Medvedev. This is from Reuters. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev on Thursday told U.S. President Trump to remember that Moscow possessed Soviet-era nuclear strike capabilities of last resort after Trump told Medvedev to watch his words. Trump, in a post on Truth Social in the early hours of Thursday, singled out Medvedev, who is deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, for sharp criticism after Medvedev said that Trump's threat of hitting Russia and buyers of its oil with punitive tariffs was a game of ultimatums and a step closer to a war between Russia and the United States. Trump wrote, "Tell Medvedev, the failed former president of Russia, who thinks he's still president, to watch his words. He's entering very dangerous territory." In his second warning to Medvedev, a close ally of Putin in recent weeks. Trump on July 29th said Russia had 10 days from today to agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine or be hit along with its oil buyers with tariffs. Moscow, which has set out its own terms for peace, which Kyiv says amount to demanding its capitulation, has not so far indicated it will comply with Trump's deadline. Trump, in his post yesterday, said he didn't care what India, one of Russia's biggest oil buyers, along with China, did with Russia. Trump said yesterday they can take their dead economies down altogether for all I care. We've done very little business with India. Their tariffs are too high, among the highest in the world. Likewise, Russia and the USA do almost no business together. Let's keep it that way. So in response to that post, where President Trump said India and Russia had dead economies, Medvedev responded, I think this was yesterday, and said, Medvedev said that Trump's statement showed that Russia should continue on its current policy course. Medvedev said, if some words from the former president of Russia trigger such a nervous reaction from the high and mighty president of the United States, then Russia is doing everything right and will continue to proceed along its own path. Oh, this was on Telegram. Okay. Medvedev also said, Trump should remember how dangerous the fabled dead hand can be, a reference to a secretive, semi-automated Russian command system designed to launch Moscow's nuclear missiles if its leadership had been taken out in a decapitating strike by a foe. By the way, Medvedev has emerged as one of the Kremlin's most outspoken anti-Western hawks since Russia invaded Ukraine. Kremlin critics deride Medvedev as an irresponsible loose cannon, though some Western diplomats say his statements give a flavor of thinking in senior Kremlin policy-making circles. So again, Medvedev yesterday said, Trump should remember how dangerous the fabled dead hand can be. And in saying that, he was referring to a secretive semi-automated Russian command system designed to launch Moscow's nuclear missiles if Russia's leadership had been taken out in a decapitating strike by a foe. And in response to that, President Trump today posted this. In response to that, President Trump posted, based on the highly provocative statements of the former president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, who is now the deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, I have ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in the appropriate regions, just in case these foolish and inflammatory statements are more than just that. Words are very important and can often lead to unintended consequences. I hope this will not be one of those instances. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Whew. Let's see here. Died suddenly, says Trump didn't even need to move these subs. Their Trident missiles can reach 7,500 miles. 5 Hour Energy thinks Trump shouldn't have posted this. Let's see here. I want to get some more comments from you. Dan Beck says jawboning. Blade Snake says exactly as a leader should do. Jorge MG thinks Trump is acting out of emotion. So, as I mentioned, a military expert, Tyler Rogoway, posted that he didn't think there was any need to move nuclear subs from the U.S. By that, we're understanding that to mean subs carrying nuclear weapons, because the U.S. would always have them in position anyway. So, as I mentioned before, Tyler posted, the U.S. has multiple nuclear ballistic missile the U.S. has multiple nuclear ballistic submarines, I assume he means ballistic missile submarines, on patrol at all times. Their target options included Russia, of course. There is no need to position them differently or deploy them. So this is an instance of using strategic status quo as strategic warning. So, I don't know if they have been positioned differently. Is it really a big change? I don't know. From what Tyler would say it's not. But when leaders of countries that are nuclear armed talk publicly about using nuclear weapons, it's commonly taken as quite a big deal. Like it's a big deal when these kind of things are mentioned. That's just the common understanding, is that they're not talked about that much, and that references to them are big deals. So this is this is not some sort of kind of, very indirect, subtle references to them. So we have Medvedev and Trump making these very clear references to nuclear weapons, and discussing these scenarios of them being used on each other the last couple days. But there's no sign that the actual alert levels or readiness or planning or any of that has actually changed. Andy Aitchenhead says, stop looking at Epstein. How about nuclear war? Square Marshmallow says, all jokes until Russia does the same. So I guess, I don't know if this really has a practical effect, but I feel like in other situations, you might say, well, does this, if all it is just talk, does it really have any kind of practical implication? Does it really make nuclear war any more likely? But I feel like one piece of analysis I've heard in the past is something like this, that if countries are threatening each other and there's some sort of, let's say there's some sort of weird accident where a missile is fired from one country towards another, if the other country, if one country has been threatening another, and then there's some sort of incident where the second country thinks that a missile might be coming at it and doesn't know if it's nuclear or not, they might need to decide what to do really fast. So the idea would be like, if countries are threatening each other with words about nuclear war, and then there's some accidental incident where it turns out that one of the countries thinks that the other country has launched a missile at it. Maybe if they're in the middle of this verbal warfare, it makes the country more likely to think, wow, maybe that is a nuclear weapon, and then maybe they fire a nuclear weapon response. Do you see what I'm saying? So I've heard this kind of analysis in the past of, it's a way in which a threatening language could, in theory, make a nuclear exchange more likely, because it might make, for example, an accidental case be misinterpreted by the other side. It could lead for dangerous misinterpretation, which leads to escalation. So it's just, I haven't seen that anybody describe this case like that. I just feel like in the past I've seen cases where there was threatening language being put out there, discussed like this. So just something to keep in mind. Flea says, ask yourself, why would we want to cause a panic right now? Ventura Highway says, you're misinterpreting. Well, I'm not interpreting anything. What I said is, this is an analysis I've seen given of how threatening language could make use of nuclear weapons more likely. Kevin Law says, this is just another distraction. Carissa says, I actually don't think it's a game. Pressure on Trump, Putin, Zelensky for this to end. The Weird World of Whitaker says, brinksmanship from Trump, I think. He's trying to get Putin to sign ceasefire. Let me show you something else about this. Hang on a moment here. Ooh, hold on. One moment. Our viewer, says, yes, this is why missile launches are announced. Thank you, I appreciate that. Here, look. Here's a short summary here. Short summary from the Washington Post. Trump, in warning to Russia, says nuclear submarines will be sent to appropriate regions. President Trump said today he has ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in the appropriate regions after former president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, reminded the U.S. that Moscow still has nuclear strike capabilities. President Trump said, based on the highly provocative statements of the former president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, who is now the deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, I have ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in the appropriate regions, just in case these foolish and inflammatory statements are more than just that. He said. Trump's order, he said, words are very important and can often lead to unintended consequences. I hope this will not be one of those instances. Trump's order comes as a war of words between the U.S. and Russia has escalated in the wake of Trump's threat of steep tariffs if Moscow does not agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine within 10 days. Here's another headline. Trump moves nuclear submarines after statements by former Russian president. That's from Reuters. We haven't even talked about Ghislaine Maxwell yet. We haven't even talked about Ghislaine Maxwell yet. See if there's anything in here that's different. AP, Trump orders U.S. nuclear subs repositioned over statements from ex-Russian leader Medvedev. AP says it wasn't immediately clear what impact Trump's order would have on U.S. nuclear subs, which are routinely on patrol in the world's hotspots. But it comes at a delicate moment in the Trump administration's relations with Moscow. Trump has said that Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is heading to Russia to push Moscow to agree to a ceasefire in its war with Ukraine and has threatened new economic sanctions if progress is not made. He cut his 50-day deadline for action to 10 days, with that window set to expire next week. By the way, Medvedev has been known for his provocative and inflammatory statements since the start of the war in 2022, a U-turn from his presidency when he was seen as liberal and progressive. Medvedev has frequently wielded nuclear threats and lobbed insults at Western leaders on social media. Some observers have argued that with his extravagant rhetoric, Medvedev is seeking to score political points with Putin and Russian military hawks. Trump and Medvedev have gotten into spats before. And they talk about some of those earlier posts that we talked about. Quipson says, let a subordinate mouth off, he's saying, rather than Trump doing it himself. General Mart says this is literally Medvedev's job. Our viewer Ricklin says Medvedev's rhetoric goes way before 2022. Barry Eisler, our viewer on Facebook, says a lot of stuff going on to distract from the Epstein files. All right, I want to talk about that as well. By the way, thanks to Stijan Olish for your support. Thank you, Stijan. I appreciate that. And thanks also to the pro of pro gamers, who thinks Trump is pressuring them to sign a ceasefire. Thanks, Kelly Smith. Kelly Smith thinks our ICBM subs are so classified as to their locations. Saying they're being moved means nothing. It's propaganda. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks also, Michelle South. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, I Love Cookies. Thanks, Griff's Dad. I appreciate it. Griff's Dad, I'm not aware that there are any more earthquakes. There have been some prominent ones lately. I'm not aware that they're any more frequent than they have been previously. But there have certainly been some prominent ones lately. I don't know. I just haven't looked at it, but I haven't read anything about that being the case. Thank you, Griff's Dad. There have been a bunch around the area where that 8.8 happened, which I believe is an active area off the coast of Russia. Seismologically active area. Heavenly Intervention, thank you. Also thanks to They Call Meacham. Yes, a short while ago I talked about the Montana shooting. People are continuing to ask about that in the chat, which I understand. What I would suggest is a good thing to do is follow me on X, because I post updates about news on X. So if you want to know if I'm aware of something, you can check my X account, which is @Lookner, because I have posted about that a little while ago, and also we talked about it on the broadcast. So I'll periodically, several people were shot in Anaconda, Montana. So I will give an update on that when I have more information. Okay. We got to talk about Ghislaine Maxwell. Thank you, Sentient Cannabis. Sentient Cannabis thinks. Now, I don't know if Sentient, which of the two stories Sentient is Cannabis. We've talked about we've talked about President Trump firing the head of labor statistics and President Trump saying he's moving 2 nuclear submarines. Sentient Cannabis thinks at least one of those is a distraction from Epstein. Thank you also, Hebrew Jerusalem Prince. I appreciate that, Hebrew Jerusalem Prince. Thank you. James says U.S. SSBNs are always in position. All right, we can come back to this. We can come back to this, but we haven't even talked about Ghislaine Maxwell yet. AZ Intel mentioned this and NBC Montana. NBC Montana reports that a shooting at the Owl Bar in Anaconda, Montana has resulted in multiple fatalities. The suspect, Michael Brown, 45, of Anaconda, remains at large. I will post a link with a photo of the suspect. I don't know the details behind that shooting, by the way. But this was at the Owl Bar. And yes, I have not heard specifics about what happened there. Oh, I think we're getting some video soon. Well, I don't know. Let's see. Oh, wait, what is this? I am supposed to get videos soon of President Trump departing the White House. I'll have permission to use the recording of it. So maybe he'll answer some questions. So I got to keep an eye out for that too. A lot to keep an eye on today. All right, and let me just make sure I'm not missing any other big updates here. This Ghislaine Maxwell story, I think, is like kind of going under the radar today. I think it's an important... Oh, President Trump is taking questions, by the way. But that is I think it's an important story. So basically, my understanding, President Trump is taking questions before leaving the White House. But I'm not seeing it live anywhere, but it's supposed to get posted shortly. So give me 1 second. Let me prepare to show you this. I think it might be one of these things where he answers the questions and then the press is allowed to release it, the recording of it at the same time. So let me just get prepared to put this on the screen for you so we can watch it when it actually gets released. So give me a moment here. Okay, I'm just getting it ready on my end so I can show you when it happens. I think we're good to go. Yeah, we're good to go. All right, so I'm keeping an eye on that. So hopefully soon we will have some responses to questions from President Trump, which I mean, he very well could be asked about either the two stories we've talked about so far, firing the head of labor statistics and moving nuclear submarines in response to comments from a Russian politician. All right, so I'm looking out for that. Has he posted again on True Social too? I gotta check his True Social. Okay. Let's talk about, we can jump back to the other stories. Let's talk about this Ghislaine Maxwell story. This is a big story. Ghislaine Maxwell is the longtime associate, some people refer to her as a romantic partner, longtime associate, very close, maybe the closest person, possibly, but certainly very close to Jeffrey Epstein, okay? And she is serving 20 years in prison for, I believe it's sex trafficking and other crimes. She was charged with helping Jeffrey Epstein in a scheme that involved recruiting underage girls for sexual stuff. You can see right here from Wikipedia, Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell was arrested and charged by the federal government of the U.S. in July 2020 with the crimes of enticement of minors and sex trafficking of underage girls related to her association with Epstein as his recruiter. She was convicted on 5 of 6 counts, including one of sex trafficking of a minor in 2021. She is serving 20 years in prison. 20 years in federal prison. So, and a number of Epstein accusers say that she was involved in recruiting them, and she was she was a vital part of Epstein's operation, say these accusers, of bringing in girls, underage girls, to commit sexual acts with Jeffrey Epstein. And also, you know, and some of them accuse Epstein of basically making the girls go do sexual stuff with other people as well. But anyways, she is widely seen as the main number 2 to Epstein. Was it last week? Sometime in the last couple weeks, I believe, she sat down for 2 days to do a Q&A session to answer questions from Todd Blanche, who is the Deputy Attorney General and used to be Trump's personal lawyer. And we don't know what that interview, what she said in that interview. We don't know what happened. I believe her lawyer said she was asked about a lot of people. Her lawyer said she answered everything she was asked. But there's been no public accounting of what the conversations were. She was in federal prison in Florida. But now, according to reports today, she's been transferred to a minimum security prison camp in Texas. So why did she get transferred? Let me show you some stuff on this. And I don't believe there's been a statement from the administration on why this happened. Jeffrey Epstein's former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, is transferred to a prison camp in Texas. See a picture of her right there with Jeffrey Epstein. Steph Brunk thinks they gave her a deal. Okay. Jeffrey Epstein's former girlfriend, says AP, has been moved from a federal prison in Florida to a prison camp in Texas as her criminal case generates renewed public attention. The Federal Bureau of Prisons said today that Maxwell had been transferred to Bryan, Texas, but did not explain the circumstances. Her attorney confirmed the move, but also declined to discuss the reasons for it. I'm going to change the headline right now because we're discussing this story. Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell transferred to different site, reasons unclear. So the Bureau of Prisons did confirm Maxwell was convicted in 2021 of helping Epstein sexually abuse underage girls and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. She had been held at a low-security prison in Tallahassee, Florida, until her transfer to the prison camp in Texas, where other inmates include Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes and Jen Shah of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Minimum security federal prison camps house inmates the Bureau of Prisons considers to be the lowest security risk. Some don't even have fences. The prison camps were originally designed with low security to make operations easier and to allow inmates tasked with performing work at the prison, like landscaping and maintenance, to avoid repeatedly checking in and out of a main prison facility. Let me just finish here. It's a short article. Maxwell's case has been the subject of heightened public focus since an outcry over the Justice Department's statement last month saying it would not be releasing any additional documents from the Epstein sex trafficking investigation. Since then, Trump administration officials have tried to cast themselves as promoting transparency in the case, including by requesting from courts the unsealing of grand jury transcripts. Maxwell was interviewed at a Florida courthouse over 2 days last week by Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. The House Oversight Committee has separately said it wants to speak with Maxwell. Her lawyers said this week she would be open to an interview, but only if the panel were to give her immunity from prosecution for anything she said. So, again, this has happened. She has been transferred to a minimum security prison camp, which the Bureau of Prisons considers the lowest security risk prison facility. She was transferred. We don't know why. And she has been at the other she was convicted in 2021 in December. So I assume she's been at the other place for a few years. All right, I want to take some of your comments on this. What do you think about this? V Music thinks she's transferred because she's about to get a pardon. I think that's what V Music said. Trying to find your comment, V Music. Sorry if I misread it. But so, first of all, one obvious reason you might say is possible is that there was some sort of deal whereby she agreed to do questioning in exchange for getting transferred to a more favorable prison location. I'm not saying that's what happened. Somebody might say that. Rich, our viewer, thinks she's cutting deals in the background. K Overcash thinks a pardon is not behind. Let's see here. Tux Norris says, a taste of freedom in exchange for not whistleblowing Trump. Now, just to be clear, there's been no evidence released. There are some accusers who claim that who say that they were, told by Jeffrey Epstein to have sexual activities with other people. But I'm not aware that Trump has been publicly accused of this. So just to be clear on this, but you know, some people think that there were other people, whoever they might be. You know, a lot of famous and influential people were in Jeffrey Epstein's orbit and close to Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, Trump used to be friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Bill Clinton spent a bunch of time with Jeffrey Epstein, and lots of other prominent people. So, you know, but I want to just be careful here for people who haven't followed the story. So, you know, does she know about famous people being involved? She's never said anything publicly about it, as far as I'm aware. Mary M. says minimum security shall be across the border by tomorrow? Terry Bryan thinks she's not going to incriminate herself further. It's very interesting that this has happened and it's been confirmed by the Bureau of Prisons, and there is no reasoning given for it yet. We have heard nothing from the federal government as to why this happened. Bones, our viewer, thinks she got a better spot in prison to give up some goods. No, Storm Laughter, she went from the Florida prison, which I guess was a low security prison, to a minimum security federal prison camp, which are the lowest level of security, I guess, because you can see right here, the camp she went to is a minimum security federal prison camp, and those are considered to be those house the people considered to be the lowest security risk. Java Streamer thinks she will not get a pardon. Let me show you some more about this. When will we hear from the Trump administration about this, with some explanation for it? Maybe President Trump was just asked about it a few minutes ago, and we'll hear what he said. This is a little update from Washington Post. Ghislaine Maxwell moved to lower security prison in Texas. Jeffrey Epstein's imprisoned associate Ghislaine Maxwell has been moved from a detention facility in Florida to a lower security prison in Texas, her attorney said today. Maxwell, who was convicted in 2021 on sex trafficking charges, had been serving her 20-year sentence at a low-security prison in Tallahassee. She has been transferred to a prison in Bryan, Texas, her attorney said. That facility has a minimum level of security and is known as a federal prison camp. The relocation, her lawyer did not give a reason for this. There's been no reason given by the government for this so far. The relocation comes a week after Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, a former defense lawyer for President Trump, spent nearly 2 days interviewing Maxwell in Florida about the case. Her attorney said at the time that Blanche asked Maxwell about 100 different people, and that Maxwell had answered every single question truthfully and to the best of her ability. Maxwell has been subpoenaed to give a deposition to Congress on August 11th. She has asked for immunity to testify, but the congressional committee that sought her testimony has rejected that condition. Maybe while we're on the air, we'll hear more about this. Claudia S. thinks Guantanamo is a good prison for her. Crow177 says, we the people need to be consistent and not let the subject fade away. HM Doppelganger thinks Trump would be impeached if he pardoned or commuted her for her sentence. Commuted her sentence. Time and Tide says speculation that Trump might pardon Maxwell while P. Diddy's people are reportedly trying to persuade the president to pardon him as well. Don't do it, Trump, said our viewer. Don't do it, Trump, said Time and Tide. These people deserve to be incarcerated. Elkie Smith said they moved her to get her? We're waiting, by the way, to get some footage of Trump being asked some questions today. Oh, I have an update for you guys from the White House pool, which says, this is SV.T. SV.T. This is via the White House press pool. Brief Q&A at the White House, no real news. SV.T says. Trump said in his remarks, I guess that he just made, that he fired the Bureau of Labor Statistics Commissioner for putting out false numbers, that Russia's former president that had threatened the U.S. Well, that's like an incomplete statement, so we'll see that. He said he did not understand a question about it taking him 7 years to break with Jeffrey Epstein. So again, according to SV.T, who is White House correspondent for HuffPost, there was no big news in the Q&A. But we're supposed to get footage of it. Oh, hold on, I got the footage. I have the footage. Here, hold on, wait. This is it. I think we're about to see it right here. This is moments ago. All right, here, hang on. Here it is. Here it is. No, that's not what I want. This is moments ago at the White House. So we're going to see what Trump was asked when he left the White House. Is there audio on this? Hang on. It's supposed to be. Moments ago, the White House. This is via AFP. Here, look, right here. It's right here.
Are you gonna go to talk with Putin before your deadline coming? I mean, 10 days war in the...
Well, we'll see what happens. We're going to have some meetings and we'll see what happens.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Mr. President, you said the jobs report today were rigged. What
I think so. And if you look at before the election, the same kind of thing happened. And I think you'll see some very interesting information come out. But we got ready. You have to have honest reports. And when you look at those numbers, or when you look at just before the election, and then after the election they corrected it by 800,000 or 900,000 jobs, yeah, I would say so.
And thank you. Two submarines today.
Korea in the United States.
We have a great relationship.
How many talks and when do you have it?
Yeah, we have a great relationship with South Korea.
But you said, are you ready? Are you open to negotiate with Brazil? The Brazilian President Lula said he would like to call you. He requests a conversation. Would you talk to him now?
He can talk to me anytime he wants.
So are you open to tariffs?
Yeah, he can talk to me anytime he wants.
What is on the table for Brazil?
Well, we'll see what happens, but I love the people of Brazil.
What evidence do you have?
Why you said the two brothers?
I love the people of Brazil.
So why is it
Submarines
tariffs? They don't
close
seem
to
to be
Russia.
related to trade
Because
with
the
president.
people running Brazil did the wrong thing.
What evidence do you have? Say that was rigged.
It took 7 years from the time that you learned that people were being stolen from Mar-a-Lago to the time that you picked that you took Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, I don't understand your question.
Where are the submarines being deployed? The nuclear submarines?
Say it?
Where are being deployed the nuclear submarines?
Oh yeah, well we had to do that. We just have to be careful. And a threat was made and we didn't think it was appropriate, so I have to be very careful. So I do that on the basis of safety for our people. A threat was made by a former president of Russia, and we're going to protect our people.
Will Hillary Clinton finally be investigated for election fraud?
I hope so. I hope so. I don't know whether or not that'll happen, but I hope so.
Mr. President, why did you fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics?
Because I think her numbers were wrong. Just like I thought her numbers were wrong before the election. Days before the election, she came out with these beautiful numbers for Kamala. I guess Biden/Kamala. And she came out with these beautiful numbers trying to get somebody else elected. Then right after the election, I think on the 15th, November 15th, she had an $800,000 or $900,000 massive reduction. Said she made a mistake. No, that woman's numbers
Have any
are.
evidence that she faked?
Say it.
Said Governor Kugler is set to resign.
Yeah, one of the governors, as you know, of the Federal Reserve has just announced she's resigning. I understand it was over the fact that she disagreed with somebody from her party. She disagreed with Too Late. You know who Too Late is?
Yeah.
She disagreed with Too Late on the interest rate. So we'll see what happens. But we just found out that I have a open spot on the Federal Reserve Board. I'm very happy about that, John.
And what did Medvedev say to you that made you really mad?
Well, you just have to read what he said. He was talking about nuclear. When you talk about nuclear, we have to be prepared, and we're totally prepared.
Mr. President, on the monthly jobs report, going forward, why should anyone trust the numbers?
Well, that's
And
the
if
big
you're-
thing. You're right. No, you're right. Why should anybody trust numbers? You go back to election day. Look what happened 2 or 3 days before with massive, wonderful job numbers, trying to get him elected or her elected, trying to get whoever the hell was running. Because you go back and they came out with numbers that were very favorable to Kamala, okay, to trying to get him elected, trying to get her elected. And then on the 15th of November or thereabouts, they had an 800,000 or 900,000 overstatement reduction right after the election. It didn't work because you know who won, John? I won.
But here's the thing. Your supporters have had issues with these numbers.
I've had issues with the numbers for a long time. But today's, we're doing so well. I believe the numbers were phony just like they were before the election. And there were other times. So you know what I did? I fired her.
Right.
And you know what? I did the right thing.
If any government official going forward is presenting data or information you don't like, should they fear for their job?
I've always had a problem with these numbers. You know, I was thinking about it this morning. Before the numbers that came out, I said, who is the person that does these numbers? And then they gave me stats about before the election. I had a similar problem. I mean, she gave out numbers that were so good for the Democrats. It was like unbelievable. And then right after the election, she corrected those numbers with, I think, almost 900,000 corrections. I think nobody had ever seen anything like it. Well, today she did the same thing with the 253,000, whatever the number was. No, we need people that we can trust. I mean, your question is a very good one. We need people we can trust.
What about Switzerland? What would you like to see from Switzerland?
You know who you plan to replace her with?
I've got about 3 very good, I have a lot of good candidates. I will say everybody wants it. I've had more phone calls, but I have 3 people that are.
Do you have a background in labor?
You know, I could do a long-term thing or I could do a temporary. It's a 14-year term.
Right, but do you put someone in who actually has labor statistics experience?
I put somebody in. I put somebody in who's going to be honest. That's all we want. I have a choice. I can have 4 months. I can do a short term, or I can do a 14-year deal. So we'll see. We have a lot of people. We've got a lot of good people around.
Can I ask you a construction question?
That was a shock. The tariff rate with Switzerland. It was higher than other European.
Well, the problem with Switzerland, we have a $40 billion deficit with Switzerland, and I spoke yesterday to Switzerland, but we have a $40 billion deficit with Switzerland. That's a big deficit.
Question on the construction. Can I ask you a question on the construction? You say you're raising $200 million. You're donating a bunch. Others are as well. Are you blocking foreigners from donating money to build that addition?
Honestly, I never even thought of it, but it doesn't matter. I'm putting up my money, but it doesn't even matter. They've wanted a ballroom at the White House, and it's been very popular. You know, when we put it out yesterday.
You're not ruling out that a crown prince or some European
No, I'm not
or
looking.
Asian
I'm not
official
looking for
could
that.
fund
You know, you have very strong restrictions as to who can donate, and we go by the restrictions.
And was it a will you
It's
give
not
us
a lot of. I mean, it's not that much money.
will
It's
you
money,
release
but
the names of the donors?
yeah, I'll do that. I didn't even start yet, by the way. But when I do, I'll release
How
the
many
names.
donors do you think it's going to take to get the $200 million?
Maybe one, me. But
You would cut that check yourself.
I would, yeah.
Did you talk to Steve Witkoff today from his journey to Gaza? Did you talk to Steve Witkoff?
I did. I spoke to Steve Witkoff. He had a great meeting with a lot of people, and the primary meeting was on food. And he also had some other conversations that I'll tell you about later. But he had a meeting on getting the people fed, and that's what we want. And I'll see you later on. Well, I understand India no longer is going to be buying oil from Russia. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's right or not, but that's a good step. We'll see what happens, okay?
How is your health?
On tariffs, obviously the Treasury is taking in so much money right now. Some Republicans have been pushing for tariff checks to go out. The basic idea is move the money back. Any
No, there are a lot of people that would like to see us do sort of a dividend to the people of our country. It's something I'd consider.
How much would people?
I want to pay off debt, but there's a possibility I'd do a dividend.
Can I ask about I know, sorry, it's crazy. On tariffs, obviously there's.
Is that all the questions? Let's see. I think that's the end of the video. Oh, we got to see him answer the questions. We never even talked about the. That was footage that was just shot a few minutes ago of him taking questions at the White House. That was via AFP. We should talk for a little bit about the ballroom. We didn't even talk about that. I can show you when that was talked about yesterday in the press briefing. Because he just talked about that in his Q&A. Where is it here? I think it's right at the top here. Okay, let me just real quick. What can I put on? There's too many headlines. We've discussed Trump fires head of labor stats, moves nuclear subs. We talked about those two. And then Ghislaine Maxwell getting moved to a lower security prison. We talked about that. And But real quick, I just want to mention this story about the because he was just we watched him answer questions at the White House, and there were a couple questions about this new ballroom that he's going to start constructing. So let me just show you this from yesterday. This is where the press secretary was talking about it. I think she talks about it right at the top. By the way, quick thanks so much to John's social media. Yeah, John, I have mentioned the Montana story several times during the broadcast. I'll check soon for updates and let you know what I hear about it. There was a shooting in Montana where several people were shot at a bar. So I will certainly keep an eye on it. Thank you so much, John's social media. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Sydney from Mexico. Julio Limos, Andrew Fisher. Thank you, Hebrew Jerusalem Prince. Thank you so much. Queen of the South. Max Payne. I think Max is in Turkey. Max says, hopefully the aliens arrive soon and stop all this chaos. Thanks for watching from Turkey, Max. Thanks also to Simbex007. Thank you so much. Space Fraggle, thank you. And also, I want to shout out. Our moderators real quick. Oh, thanks, Kristen McConnell Gates for the Facebook stars. And also our moderators. We have moderating Beth Mythical, Ruth Krafasi over on YouTube. Thank you so much. Janet B. Thank you. Also on Facebook, Kay Larry Body, Margaret Riley. Also thanks on Facebook, Robert Rial II for subscribing, and Susan Priest Bugner over there. Sharon Klassen Gosselin for subscribing. Thank you. Kristen McConnell Gates for subscribing. Rita Evans Lang for subscribing. Thank you. Aaron Van Ness as well. If I'm missing any moderators, I'm sorry. Shannon Davis Hughes, thank you for moderating. Also our Twitch moderators, Hearsay, LB Prairie Dawn, Idaho Star, Matthew Kohai 3, Sarah and Surly Dev, thank you so much. And Linda Belk, Larry and Misha moderating on X, thank you. Also, our viewer Dan Lampkin thinks that President Trump should not be telling the general public about nuclear submarine movements. He says he thinks it might psychologically affect people and it might expose military plans. Thank you, Dan Lampkin, for writing it. All right, here's, I believe, this is the part where the press secretary talks about the new plans yesterday for the White House ballroom.
I have a lot of news today, and I have quite a few announcements for you, so let's get to it. First, on behalf of the President and the White House, we express our deepest condolences to the family of New York police officer Islam, who made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of his fellow New Yorkers. As the funeral services are held in New York City today, everyone at the White House is keeping the officer's family, friends, and fellow NYPD law enforcement officers in our thoughts and prayers. The President has always, and will always, proudly stand with our men and women in blue. May God bless Officer Islam and the other individuals who were tragically killed in this senseless act of violence. In other news, President Trump's working visit to Scotland was a huge...
Let me just get to the part where she talks about the... I think it's right here. Is this it?
...of Cambodia to inform both leaders that in less than what we are watching is President Trump reading the apostle.
Hang on, I gotta just get the exact part where this comes in. I didn't do a good job of queuing it up.
From the President of the United States. On May 12th, a collaborative strategy, and it is time they pay their fair companies in the United States with a seated capacity of...
I got it. Here it is.
The White House and the camp staff have long very
shortly, so you can look out for those, and I'm happy to take any further questions. Before we get to questions, I do have one other announcement from the White House and from the President. We are proud to announce that the construction of the new White House ballroom will begin. For 150 years, presidents, administrations, and White House staff have longed for a large event space on the White House complex that can hold substantially more guests than currently allowed. President Trump has expressed his commitment to solving this problem on behalf of future administrations and the American people. The White House is one of the most beautiful and historic buildings in the world, yet the White House is currently unable to host major functions, honoring world leaders in other countries without having to install a large and unsightly tent approximately 100 yards away from the main building's entrance. The White House State Ballroom will be a much-needed and exquisite addition of approximately 90,000 total square feet of innately designed and carefully crafted space with a seated capacity of 650 people, which is a significant increase from the 200-person seated capacity in the East Room of the White House. In recent weeks, President Trump has held several meetings with members of the White House staff, the National Park Service, the White House Military Office, and the United States Secret Service to discuss design features and planning. President Trump has chosen McCreary Architects as the lead architect, which is well known for their classical architectural design and based right here in our nation's capital. The construction team will be headed by Clark Construction, and the engineering team will be led by AECOM. The project will begin in September 2025, and it is expected to be completed long before the end of President Trump's term. President Trump and other donors have generously committed to donating the funds necessary to build this approximately $200 million structure. The United States Secret Service will provide the necessary security enhancements and modifications. The White House ballroom will be substantially separated from the main building of the White House, but at the same time, its theme and architectural heritage will be almost identical. The site of the new ballroom will be where the small, heavily changed and reconstructed East Wing currently sits. The East Wing was constructed in 1902 and has been renovated and changed many times, with a second story added in 1942. White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles has provided the following statement. President Trump is a builder at heart and has an extraordinary eye for detail. The President and the Trump White House are fully committed to working with the appropriate organizations to preserve the special history of the White House while building a beautiful ballroom that can be enjoyed by future administrations and generations of Americans to come. In the White House, we will continue to provide the American public and all of you in the press with updates on this project at whitehouse.gov/visit. And if you go there shortly, you will be able to see renderings and visuals of what this ballroom will look like, both the exterior and the interior. I have provided some photos for all of you in the room today. This is the interior of the ballroom space. It's quite beautiful. And then this is the exterior of the ballroom space. As you can see, it will come off of the executive mansion as it sits today, and the East Wing will be modernized and renovated. We're happy to answer any further questions on that, Jennifer. Since you're so eager, I will go to you, but first.
All right, so I want to show you also the pictures that there are pictures that have come out about the expansion. So let me show you here. Hang on, I'm going to show you the pictures. I'm pulling up the pictures here so you can see them. Okay, I have them all. I have them here. Let's look at the pictures of the new ballroom. It's the pictures of the new ballroom posted by the White House. I'm going to put them on the screen for you right now. I need to just get this up here. It's about 7 or 8 pictures. Where is this? There. All right, trying to give you like, what's a good one to give you a better picture here? All right, there's this one, there's that one. Yes, so as I understand it, that's the current White House, right? That's the White House. Well, I mean, it's all the White House. But that's the front or back of the White House, right there. And I guess this is the new part. As you heard, the press secretary said it's going to cost $200 million, and Trump and others are going to donate for it. I'm right, though. Right, that's the current front or back of the White House. And then this would be the addition here, if I'm looking right. And they're going to start on this in what, September, she said? This is, I think, the back of the White House. Right here. Isn't this the back? Yes, this is the back. This is the rear right here. Okay. So, again, as I understand it, oh, you know what I can show you? Actually, I'll show you. Hold on. Again, President Trump was asked a couple questions about this in the Q&A today, so I figured we would just mention it. I know it's a little off topic, but I wanted to mention it anyway. Here, look. So here is, we got it. Okay, so here is from Google Maps, here is the current, what it currently looks like. All right, here's what it currently looks like right here. So you have the front of the White House here, right? And then this is the current, this is what's on the side of it. See that? That's what it currently looks like. I can make it a little bigger. So you have the back, and then this is the East Wing here. So this is what it'll look, now what they're doing is they're going to change this part, the East Wing. So after they're done, it's going to look like this. Hold on. See, that's what the East Wing is going to look like after. We have some differing views on this in our chat, on whether they like it or not. Okay, also some of these other ones are, here's a picture of it. That's the inside. There's a picture of the interior. This is the new ballroom. They're going to start constructing it in a couple months. They say it's going to be done before the end of his term. I guess that's part of it there. That's like the entrance to the ballroom, I guess, or the front of the ballroom. And then, yeah, so that's the back of the White House, and then that'll be the new ballroom here. Yes, and then that's it as well. Okay, so anyways. I just wanted to mention that. Okay, and Zorpid thinks it looks like Mar-a-Lago. Storm Laughter thinks it looks stunning. Dave Kochansky thinks it looks tacky. So that's happening. All right, let me just see if I have any updates on the stories we were talking about before. I have to check. Give me one moment. We've been talking about things and I haven't checked for updates. Oh, there was a question which he said he didn't understand, a question about Jeffrey Epstein. Nandita Bose, who's a reporter for Reuters, said it was a little hard to hear. The question was, why did it take 7 years from the time you learned of people being stolen from Mar-a-Lago to kick out Jeffrey Epstein? I don't know if the premise of that question is true or not, by the way, but that was the question I guess he said he didn't answer. I mean, there was a loud helicopter going on at the time. So we still don't have a comment from the government on why Ghislaine Maxwell was moved from the prison in Florida, which was a low security federal prison, to a lower security, basically minimum security federal prison camp in Texas. We have not gotten any kind of word from the federal government, on the Trump administration, on why that happened. And I'm not seeing an update on that yet. Okay, so there's that. If I have one, I'll give it to you. Update about the Montana shooting, which we have been talking about periodically. I am seeing a report of 4 people killed in that shooting. Yes, manhunt launched after 4 people killed in shooting at a Montana bar. Oops, you can't see what I'm looking at. Hang on a second here. Manhunt launched after 4 killed in shooting at Montana bar, AP says. A shooting at a Montana bar left 4 people dead. There is a manhunt for the suspect. The shooting happened around 10:30 a.m. at the Owl Bar in Anaconda. The suspect, 45-year-old Michael Brown, lived next to the bar. The suspect lived next door to the bar. Anaconda is a town of about 9,000 people. Malice Bixie says, music too loud. I don't know if the person was a customer there or wasn't actually drinking there and went over there or something. I do not know. I'm actually going to post that piece of information, though, if I can find it here. So let me just post this. I want to post that. So as I mentioned, suspect in shooting at Montana shooting at Montana bar in which 4 were killed took place around 10:30 a.m. Suspect lived next to bar. Condolences to the families of the people who were killed. It's terrible. Hopefully they can get the person into custody soon. Clarkey thinks they probably moved Ghislaine Maxwell in preparation for her release. That I have no idea. I'd be interested if an expert on what someone who is expert on those kind of things would say about her move. Let me check a couple other things here, sources on that. Oh, also one of the Fed governors stepped down. So, where is it here? Hold on, I'll show you. I'll mention this. One of the governors, one of the Federal Reserve Board. So President Trump has been complaining about the Federal Reserve not lowering interest rates in the country, and really complaining a lot about Jerome Powell, the head of the Fed. So according to the Washington Post, hang on a second here, one of the Federal Reserve governors is resigning early, giving Trump an opening to appoint somebody else to the board. Hang on, let me just show you this. This is another story which happened today, which we haven't even talked about. Here. Federal Reserve governor to resign early, handing Trump an opening on board. Federal Reserve Governor Adriana Kugler is stepping down early from the central bank's powerful board of governors, creating an immediate vacancy that will give President Trump an early opportunity to shape the board's leadership. Kugler, 55, a labor economist, was nominated by President Biden, and her term was set to expire in January. Her unexpected resignation opens a slot on the Fed that could help shift the balance of the central bank's policymaking, which Trump has been seeking for months. Whomever Trump nominates to succeed her may ultimately replace Jerome Powell as chair of the board, the 7-member board. Trump has repeatedly attacked Powell for not moving to immediately slash the Fed's short-term interest rates, saying lower rates are needed to juice the economy. In announcing her resignation, the Fed said Kugler would return to teaching at Georgetown. Though governors are appointed to staggered 14-year terms, it's common for them to leave early. Still, the timing of Kugler's departure hands Trump the chance to install a new voice about 6 months before he otherwise might have been able to do so. Powell's tenure as chair expires in May, but he can remain on the Fed as a governor until early 2028. That means Trump may want to fill the vacancy with someone who could step into the top job. Whoever Trump taps to lead the Fed faces a complex balancing act, managing the monetary policy goals of an institution designed to operate independently, while also navigating the demands of a president unafraid to publicly pressure the Fed for lower interest rates. The next chair would be likely to come under intense scrutiny from financial markets and from within the Fed itself, as officials gauge whether political loyalty might come at the expense of the central bank's credibility in fighting inflation. And let me just show you a post President Trump made recently about Jerome Powell. This was here, this earlier today. President Trump on Jerome Powell earlier today. Check it out. Too little, too late. Jerome, too late. Powell is a disaster. Drop the rate. The good news is that tariffs are bringing billions of dollars into the USA. No, there's another one I wanted to mention. Well, that wasn't even the one I was thinking of. There was another one. 9 hours ago, he's been posting a lot about this. President Trump, 9 hours ago, strong dissents on, let me show you this. Trump, 9 hours ago, said, strong dissents on Fed board. It will only get stronger. Too late. And I think there's another one. Yes. This is from 11 hours ago. So earlier today. Technically earlier today. Where is it here? Hold on. Jerome, too late Powell, a stubborn moron, what must substantially lower interest rates. Now, if he can, now, if he continues to refuse, the board should assume control and do what everyone knows has to be done. This is all from today. So I'm just mentioning that story. That's a news story from today about the Fed governor, one of the governors leaving early. Stephen Elder says so much winning. Lady Bird Lee says Trump is going to crash the economy. And speaking of the economy, Mark Wheeler says Trump nominated Powell. Speaking of the economy and Trump, you can see here, he assumed office as the chair under President Trump in 2018. That is from Wikipedia. He was elevated to chairman by President Trump in 2018. But what we were covering earlier, and I want to mention again, because we covered it first. So for people who aren't aware, there was a jobs report that came out today from, I believe, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in which, first of all, it said that the job numbers for July were less than had been widely expected. And second of all, as often happens with economic numbers, earlier economic numbers were revised up or down based on new information. So the job numbers from May and June were revised significantly down today. And President Trump was not happy with this. And President Trump said today that the new job numbers were rigged to make him and Republicans look bad, and he fired the head of labor statistics. The head of the group that comes out with the job numbers, he fired. So, just in case you missed it, I want to just mention that quickly again, because it was a while ago we talked about it. So you can see right here, he said, I was just informed that our country's job numbers are being produced by a Biden appointee, Dr. Erica McIntarfer, the Commissioner of Labor Statistics, who faked the jobs numbers before the election to try and boost Kamala's chances of victory. He accuses that. There's no evidence here presented of that. I'm not aware that there is any evidence of that publicly around. Anyways, But he says this is the same Bureau of Labor Statistics that overstated the jobs growth in March 2024 by approximately 818,000, and then again right before the 2024 presidential election in August and September by 112,000. These were records. No one can be that wrong. We need accurate jobs numbers. I've directed my team to fire this Biden political appointee immediately. She will be replaced with someone much more competent and qualified. Important numbers like this must be fair and accurate. They can't be manipulated for political purposes. McIntyre said there were only 73,000 jobs added in the latest month. A shock, says Trump. But more importantly, that a major mistake was made by them, 258,000 jobs downward in the prior 2 months. Similar things happened in the first part of the year, always to the negative. The economy is booming under Trump despite a Fed that also plays games, this time with interest rates, where they lowered them twice and substantially just before the presidential election, I assume in the hopes of getting Kamala elected. How did that work out? Jerome Too Late Powell should also be put out to pasture. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And as I said earlier in that announcement, he didn't explicitly say. He seemed to imply that today's jobs report, he seemed to imply that it was made up to get, by someone who didn't want to make him look bad or something like that, or made up it was inaccurate and made up by somebody with a political agenda. But I said it didn't explicitly say that. It seemed to imply that, but I said it wasn't clear exactly if that's what he was saying here. Well, he clarified it a short time later by posting this. He said, in my opinion, today's jobs numbers, these are the official U.S. government jobs numbers. He said, in my opinion, today's jobs numbers were rigged in order to make the Republicans and me look bad, just like when they had 3 great days around the 2024 presidential election, and then those numbers were taken away on November 15th, 2024, right after the election, when the jobs numbers were massively revised downward, making a correction of over 818,000 jobs, a total scam. Jerome Too Late Powell is no better, but the good news is our country is doing great. So that's been a big story today, is that he has fired the head of labor statistics. And there were some questions he got about when we watched his Q&A session today, the short Q&A session before he left. He got a couple questions about asking about whether the numbers would be trustworthy going in the future. Now, one time somebody said, like, can we trust the numbers? And I think the questioner was saying, can we trust the numbers in the future? But Trump, the way he answered it was like something like exactly, and then he said we couldn't trust the numbers before. So this has gotten a lot of publicity. I saw they were covering it on CNBC. Will this affect the trust of the numbers coming out of the U.S. in the future? I don't know. Oh, hold on a second. I have an update here about something. I'll take some of your comments, but wait a second here. I'm seeing here Politico is reporting that the scheduled congressional deposition of Ghislaine Maxwell, which it wasn't even clear she was going to do, but the scheduled congressional deposition is indefinitely postponed, according to House Oversight Chair Comer. Comer said he would agree to delay the meeting after her lawyers requested a postponement. Maxwell's attorneys I think they said they wanted immunity, congressional immunity to testify in front of Congress, and Comer says the committee will not give that. I'm trying to find the actual letter to her from the house, from Comer. So, not that it was going to happen anyway, but it's definitely not happening now on August 11th. Yeah, so I don't have the original letter, but that's being reported by multiple outlets. So I'm just letting you know about that. I guess it has been postponed until after her lawyers wanted it postponed until the Supreme Court ruled on her appeal of her case. I don't know when that's going to happen. All right, we'll take a few more comments here. So I know we've been jumping around on the different stories here, and it's a little confusing, but there's been all these different stories we've been covering. So I'm trying to give you updates as I see them. And then in the chat, people are asking about different stories, which I certainly understand. Our viewer CC says, no way to make people talk. Mortz thinks that lawyers are waiting for a pardon to be offered. Oh, I should mention something about the... By the way, the Wall Street Journal, literally the top headline on their webpage, the Wall Street Journal, is Trump orders firing of statistics chief after weak jobs data. That's the headline. Basically what happens, according to the Wall Street Journal, is that the Bureau of Labor Statistics gives an initial jobs number, and then they get more data as the time goes along, and they regularly will revise numbers based on the more data they get in. And they're getting data from different businesses and government agencies who give data on the amount of people they're employing. Oh, you know what I was going to ask you guys? So I forgot to do this because we were busy covering a bunch of things. We were talking about this story where Ghislaine Maxwell got moved. I don't know if it was today or before today, but she's there. She got moved. She's there now. She got moved from her prison, the federal prison in Florida, which was low security, to a lower security. I guess it's minimum security from what I understand, the minimum level of security for a federal prison facility, minimum security federal prison camp in Texas. And we don't know why that happened yet. There's been no statement from the federal government on why that happened. We've done this poll before, but some of you were saying you think that President Trump is eventually going to pardon her, and maybe this is a step towards that. So we're going to do a poll real quick, flash poll. Will Trump pardon Ghislaine Maxwell at any point in time? Some of you were bringing this up. So I'm going to have a quick poll and see what happens. People have different views in our chat. But I figured since people are talking about it in the chat, we'll do a quick poll question and see what people say. All right, it's posted on YouTube. It's posted on Twitch. I'm going to post it on Steve Miller, our viewer, thinks it'll be at the end of the near the end of the presidency. I didn't specify a time. I have now posted it on all the platforms that I normally would. So let me show you what you guys said about this. Explorer says time served. Oh, when I say pardon, I mean there's different variations of it, but either, you know, there's pardon, and then there's, you can not pardon, but you can just reduce the sentence. So you could reduce the sentence to time served. I just meant anything like that in general. That's what I meant. Oh, I forgot that there was a statement from some of the accusers about this news, which I want to mention to you. All right, so here's the poll. You can see Ghislaine Maxwell moved from Florida prison to lower security facility. I asked you guys, will Trump pardon Ghislaine Maxwell? Wow, so YouTube right now, we have this. 58% of you say yes on YouTube. On Twitch, by the way, on Facebook, it is 58% as well. Same on Facebook. And on Twitch right now, it is, it was 54% on Twitch. Because the poll just ended over there. That was short. I got to make it longer on Twitch. I don't know if that got reset or what. It was 61% on Twitch. So everybody's, all the three platforms are kind of similar. Oops, it just disappeared on Twitch. Well, so much for that. Three platforms kind of similar. Malice Bixie says the big question is, what does Trump want get in return? Some of our viewers, like Steve Peranto, thinks lower security means there's some increased chance that something might happen to her. Mommy Dearest thinks this is sickening. Awake says very upset if he does. So I don't know if we'll hear about this today, why this happened. Reuters says Ghislaine Maxwell has been transferred to from a Florida prison to a lower security facility in Texas to continue serving her 20-year sentence for helping the late financier and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein sexually abuse underage girls, the U.S. Bureau of Prisons said today. Her move from FCI Tallahassee, a low-security prison, to the federal prison camp in Bryan, Texas, comes a week after she met with Deputy U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche, who said he wanted to speak with her about anyone else who may have been involved in Epstein's crimes. Her lawyer confirmed she was moved, but had no other comment. Justice Department had no comment. The Bureau of Prisons classifies prison camps such as Bryan as minimum security institutions, the lowest of 5 security levels in the federal system. Such facilities have limited or no perimeter fencing. Again, the facility she is in now those type of facilities have limited or no perimeter fencing. Low security facilities such as FCI Tallahassee have double fenced perimeters and higher staff to inmate ratios than camps, according to the Bureau. Asked why Maxwell was transferred, a Bureau of Prisons spokesperson said he could not comment on the specifics of any incarcerated individual's prison assignment, but that the Bureau of Prisons determines where inmates are sent based on factors including the level of security and supervision the inmate requires. Neither Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, or the lawyer for Ghislaine Maxwell has provided detailed accounts of what they discussed. Her lawyer said, I know her lawyer said she was asked about, I think, around 100 people, and said she answered questions fully. No, she answered every question she was asked, but we don't have details of what they discussed. Hey, thanks Sevenfold for your support. Sevenfold says publicly announcing the strategic movement of military assets could be articulated as a national security threat. You're referring to the President Trump's announcement today that he moved 2 nuclear subs in response to the comments of Dmitry Medvedev, Russian politician, which we covered earlier. Thank you so much, Sevenfold, 777. Also, Tanner House, who says, is it 1984? Thanks, Chris Lee, for your support. Thanks, Claudio Cremeri, who says nuclear submarines on the move after a drunken rant from a former Russian president. Wild time. Stay safe, everybody. Thank you, Claudio T. Cremeri. JSM High says they will list Democrats and a couple low-hanging fruit of the Republicans. CC, yes, Ghislaine Maxwell's charges were federal charges. All right, I'm going to see if I have any more updates on these stories here. It is Friday today, and it's 6:04 p.m. local time. If there's going to be any big Friday night news dumps, we're in Friday night news dump territory. We'll see. Andrew Desiderio with Punchbowl News says that the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, who was fired today by President Trump, was confirmed by the Senate last year in an 86-8 vote. Black Irish is saying, aside from will Trump pardon or commute Ghislaine Maxwell's sentence, Black Irish says he wants to know how the public feels about should Trump pardon. Well, I know a lot of people in our chat would be against that, at least our chat. Hey, thanks so much to Jean-Paul Lachance for the memberships. That's really kind of you, Jean-Paul. Make sure you thank somebody if they give you a gift membership. Also, Douthis, thanks for the gift sub, Douthis. I was just doing a check for updates on these stories, and I am not at the moment seeing a bunch of updates. I'll also check for an update on the Montana story. Four people reported dead at a shooting at a bar in Anaconda, Montana. Authorities are looking for a suspect, and he lived next to the bar. And the shooting happened around 10:30 a.m. Interstitial says a pardon would be wild. Freed Speaks thinks our chat thinks that Trump will pardon her, but hopes he won't. I think we had about 60% of the poll said he would pardon her, and 40% said no. Okay, guys, I don't really have updates on these stories right now. You know, we've been covering a bunch of different stories, kind of jumping around. I think we might have reached the natural time in the stream where we've done here what we came to do, is talk about these stories. Now, there could be big news tonight, and if there is, I'll come back on the air and cover it. You know, I'll be looking out for more stories. I'll be looking for updates on this. For all I know, I'll get off the air and there'll be some big news on one of these stories. So I'm not expecting a lot of move on the nuclear submarine story. I mean, it kind of seems like it's, you know, a social media fight rather than some kind of huge change in military readiness or procedure. So, but I'll certainly be keeping an eye on it, and you know, we'll see. You never know what's going to happen. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on everything. If there's some big news tonight, we'll come back on the air and we'll do another live stream. But I think it's time with this one. So I really appreciate you guys tuning in for this live coverage today. Also, a lot of you have been in the chat chatting, and a bunch of people have been letting me read your comments on the air and asking questions and sending me updates. So thank you. We actually covered more stories because we had the Montana shooting, which I hope they can find the shooter soon. And we talked about the ballroom story. So a lot of jumping around different stories today. But I do appreciate you being here. So if you want, you can follow me on X for news updates when I'm not on the air. I post all kinds of updates on my X account, which is @Lookner. So you can follow me there for breaking news while we're not live. I'll post a link in the chat. And if you want, subscribe and follow the channel. We cover all kinds of stories here, live breaking news coverage without an agenda. So subscribe, follow Agenda Free TV. We also have a notification system. I never know when big news is going to happen. You know, who knows when we're going to come on the air. I can't tell you in advance. But we do have a notification system that works great. It's free. You sign up once, and you get sent a notification every single time, and it's really reliable. So I would suggest signing up for the notifications if you don't want to miss a stream. We set it up ourselves. We do it through Discord. The mods will post the notifications link in the chat, and you can find that link to the notifications on YouTube and Facebook in the description of this broadcast. So sign up for those. Huge thanks to our moderators, by the way. I want to thank them because they are the ones who enable us to have chat rooms, busy chat rooms today. Our moderators are the ones who allow us to do that. They're keeping things respectful, civil in there. People like Janet B. and Roberts Mayqueen and Ruth Krafasi over on YouTube, Beth Mythical. Thanks so much. Sabrina, thank you for being over there. And all of our other mods over there on YouTube, on Twitch, LB Prairie, on Idaho Star, Matthew Kohai 3, Nightbot, thank you, Sarah and Surly Dev. Also, our Facebook moderators, I know Kay Lowry Body has been over there, Margaret Riley has been over there, Shannon Davis Hughes, I believe. And all of our other Facebook moderators, thank you. Linda Belglary and Misha on X, thank you for moderating. And hey, thanks to everybody who donated. That is super nice of you guys. I really appreciate it. That is what allows the channel to stay on the air and be a full-time news channel. So thanks for your support. A couple people I still owe thank yous to. Donna Smith, thanks for the membership. Thanks to Eddie V for being a member. And also thank you to Douthis, I think I thanked Douthis already. Thanks to everybody who donated. CC, I think I got. If you ever want to donate, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. But thank you so much for supporting the channel. And also, thank you to, oh no, I wanted to say thank you to our Discord moderators who moderate on Discord. And speaking of Discord, we have a chat where you can chat with other viewers live. I don't know, well, it's not like live video, but you can have a chat where you can go back and forth with other viewers. And in our Discord chat, when we're not on the air, a lot of our viewers like doing the Discord chat. Check it out. It's free. It's the same link as the notifications link. So you can check it out there. And let's see. So I want to mention that. Also, Ruth says, come join us on Discord. Another good way to keep up with the channel, to know when we're going live, at Agenda Free TV on X. I always post there when we're going live, and I post updates about the channel there at Agenda Free TV on X. Also, want to shout out our subscribers, like on Facebook. Thanks to for subscribing LT, Robert Rial II, Louisa Knight, Sharon Klassen Goslin. Thanks for subscribing and supporting on Facebook. Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley, Marie Goodson Hamilton, and Rita Evans Lang, and all of our other Facebook subscribers. Thank you so much. Robert Rial II. Our Twitch subscribers, like Devil Dog, Freed Speaks, Jax Haku, Wall Street, Shaggy, Chi-Town Bear, Cece, Matthew Kohai 3, I'm a Peaky Blinder, Sarah, Douthis, LCS Fox. Thank you so much. Distant Galaxy. Thanks for subscribing over there. And all of our other Twitch subscribers, thanks so much. And our YouTube members like Ken Lance. Hey, it looks like on this stream in the chat, they're back to the regular screen names and not the funky ones with the numbers. That's easier. On YouTube. Macro Geek, Roger Shoemaker, thanks for being members. Ken Lance, Evelyn in Maine, Calligram, Ronan, Ethereal Planet, Pierre Dubois, Ali C, Left-Handed, I Need Some Skooma, Jesse's Girl, Dahlia, Nettie P, Chris Lee, I know I'm repeating some, sorry, Thomas Darwin, Songbird, Runaround, and Ethereal Planet, thanks for being a member. Left-Handed, Babelicious, and Waltham, and Eddie V, and Mal's Bixie, and Lisa Sawyer, and Jean-Paul LeChance, and Gemini Rose, and all of our other YouTube members. Thank you so much for being members, and everybody else for watching. All right, so we'll actually have to just see what happens with these other with these stories. I'll be keeping an eye on them. All right. All right, guys. Thanks also Pro of Pro Gamers for watching. Thank you for watching over there. Texas Brat, Bears Junkie, Too Many Records, Simp Nasty. Thank you, Harmless Monkey. Thanks for watching. Tectonic Passenger. Barry Eisler. Thanks for watching. Brian Shy. All of our other viewers. All right, that is it for now. You've been watching our live coverage, live triple coverage. We even covered more than 3 stories, but we've been covering President Trump saying he's moving a couple nuclear subs in response to comments from a Russian politician. You can go back and rewatch the coverage if you missed any of the stories and see what we talked about. We talked about Trump hiring the head of labor statistics in the U.S. federal government and Ghislaine Maxwell being moved, we don't know why yet, to a federal, a minimum security federal prison camp from a lower security but low security but higher level of security prison in Florida. So she was moved to a lesser security facility, minimum security, from Florida to Texas. We don't know why yet. Okay, that is it for now. Thanks for watching. We will see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.